Alrighty, I want to talk to you about how to solve this. When solving, you want to get x by itself. So if I'm trying to get x by itself, it's not inside of this parenthesis, so we can't touch any of this. All right, and to get that, we have to get rid of this power, but before we even get to all this around it, we have to get rid of these two things. And we're doing order of operations backwards, so the first step was to get rid of this 7 by minusing it off. Then we get to here, then we get rid of this 2 because that's the next step. We can't get inside of here, we can't do that power yet. Get rid of that 2, so it's multiplied on, so we divide it off. Next, so right here, we want to get rid of this red part. So what we do here is to get rid of this power of 2/3, we do reciprocal power, 3/2, because when you multiply these, you get 1. And you do that to both sides. So when you do that, the right side is 4 minus x. And then right here, the reason we have this plus or minus here is because we square rooted both sides. This 3/2 means 3 power of 3 square rooted, or the 1/2 power. Okay, so we're doing two things in one. We're square rooting it and cubing it. So, and you need a plus or minus because we square rooted both sides. And then second of all, I can write this 2 on the bottom, which is the square root, as the square root of 36, and just leave the cube for now. Square root of 36 is 6. 6 cubed is 216. Don't forget the positive negative. Now, once you get to here, you have to set it up as two different solves. You have 216 equals 4 minus x, and negative 216 minus 4 equals 4 minus x. And then you solve each of these like basic solving. Just don't forget at this point with this negative, don't lose that negative. A lot of people lose the negative, but make sure you divide by that -1, and those would be your two answers. But you double check. Make sure you check your work, because you can get extraneous solutions. So when I plug in my answers to my original, you'll see here that gives 216. Again, remember this is cube rooted squared, so the cube root of this is 6. 6 squared is 36. This is 72, which those are equal. And when I plug in positive 220, got that mixed up here. Remember this is a cube root, so cube root of negative 216, which you can cube root negatives. You can't square root negatives. That's -6. -6 squared is 36, and as it works down, they are true, so both those are my answers. So this right here is another solve. To solve this, I can right off the bat get rid of this power because there's no plus or minuses or anything outside, because again, our goal is to get x by itself. So to get rid of that 3/2 power, I 2/3 power that, the reciprocal power, do that to both sides. This becomes just a 4 minus x. Right here, this becomes a cube root. So we got the cube root of 64 squared. Cube root of 64 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Now, I might wonder, why didn't I put a positive negative like last time? The reason I do a positive negative is because I'm cube rooting both sides. And when you cube root, you're allowed to cube root negative. So there's not an issue with that you don't need a positive negative. So anyways, when I solve, I minus 4 over, divide by -1, there's my answer. When I check it, what I run into is I get 16, square root of 16, cubed, square root of 16 is 4, 4 cubed, that works. So my answer here is -12. That is my answer. Now, if I just wanted to be careful, let's say you did put positive negative because you're like wondering, oh, maybe just do it all the time. If you would have made a negative answer here and solved it, what you would have got is the answer 20. And when you checked it, it became impossible because you can't square root a negative. So you can always put a positive negative here if you're not sure. And then when you check it, it'll kind of be released as an answer because it's not going to work if you check it properly. All right, let's talk about graphing this. First thing I like to do when I read this is I like to write it like this. I like to realize that's a -4, the a value is -4. I like to think that's my k value, so I'm going to put it in the back. And I like to think of a 1/2 power as a square root. So this is a little bit more familiar notation to have your a, h, k. So h is going to be -3, k is 1. That's one of your coordinates, -3, 1 for graphing. You could also get it other ways, but anyways, it makes it simple, -3, 1. Right there, -3, 1. Then we got to get 2 more dots. To get these next 2 dots, what you want to do is you want to set what's inside equal to 1 and what's inside equal to 4. So what's inside equal to 1, what's inside equal to 4. When you solve that, you get -2. When you solve this, you get 1. And what happens is when I put a -2 and 1, I'm going to get nice, clean, rational answers. If you just started putting 1 in, or 2 in, or 3 in, and random numbers in, they're going to get irrational, weird decimal answers. So you don't want to just put random numbers in. So when I put -2 into this equation, -2 plus 3 is 1, square root of 1 is 1, -4 times 1 is -4, that gives you -3, so -2, -3, it's right there. Same thing, when I plug in 1, you get 4. Square root of 4 is 2. That becomes negative 8. That becomes negative 7. There it is, 1, negative 7. So then I make my curve, and that is a square root graph. Alrighty, so my domain is x is greater than negative 3, greater than or equal to negative 3, because at negative 3, the graph is going to the right of it, or values larger than negative 3, or equal to. My range is less than or equal to 1, because at this dot, my graph is going below 1. See right here? My y values are 1 and below. So those would be my domain and range. Make sure you use x for domain and y for range. You can use interval notation as well, but I think this is easier. So be careful. Don't forget to do this. Some people just forget to do this altogether on the problem because they just don't see it. So always want 3 good dots. This helps. There is a shortcut. If you want to know the shortcut for graphing this, here's the shortcut. HK. Your a value is negative 4, so you go over 1, negative 4. Then you go over 3, negative 4. Then you can do another one. You can go over 5, negative 4. But I graphed it kind of wrong because it's off the screen. But you can keep doing that. That's a shortcut, but I'd recommend plugging numbers in. It's a lot smarter.